Hello everybody, this is Roger again with Roger's Reviews, and I was just talking a little bit here about running the numbers, especially in the tree service. A lot of people get excited, just because you can get a huge loan and somehow you pull it off, you get all this money from people and you buy a big beautiful piece of equipment and you just get overextended. People get so excited and they're like, man, this guy just bought this guy bought that, blah blah blah. Man, he's kicking butt, he's taking names, man, I want to be like him. You want to keep up with the Joneses. People always want to keep up with the Joneses, but the thing is, before you jump out there and you start making all these accusations, or you start trying to figure out how to spend all this money or get all these loans, did you run the numbers? Nobody runs the numbers. It's like, sit down, figure out what the expenses are, figure out what your overhead is, figure out what you're going to have to get out of that piece of equipment to make it worth buying. And another thing is, just because you have a $1 million piece of equipment doesn't mean that you're going to get the work. You can go out, buy the biggest, baddest loader truck, the biggest, baddest grapple saw, the biggest, baddest equipment, have 10 times the equipment of Robert's Tree Service. It doesn't mean you're going to get the work. A lot of people think, I had a guy work for me, he's like, well, we'll just do this, this, and this, and buy all this, and then we'll make $1 million. That's not how it works. You have to have the customer base to support the equipment. So basically, as you get more work and basically you can't keep up with it, then you figure out what equipment to get if it's sustainable to basically reach that demand. But a lot of people buy a huge piece of equipment, or they buy all this stuff, but they don't have any work. It doesn't make any sense. So even if you have the work, sometimes it not necessarily is a good idea to buy that more equipment, because how long is that work going to last? Because sometimes you might have a couple months or a year that there's a lot of work. Just like when the housing boom happened, that people get all this had all this basically loan money to buy these houses, but they didn't have enough income to support the payments. So you basically have all these people out there buying a bunch of houses that can't afford them. Everybody's out there buying houses, they're buying trucks, they're buying, all these guys are buying a bunch of stuff to build all these houses. And then 2 or 3 years later, the bubble breaks, nobody can make their payments, everything comes to a standstill, the whole economy is screwed. Everybody loses everything they got. But the smart people, they knew it was coming. They knew, like, if something's too good to be true, 9 times out of 10 it usually is. So if the times are good, save that money, rent equipment, do whatever you need to do, but hold on to your money, invest your money. Okay, so anyway, everybody's all excited. We have a bunch of people in town that they spent over $300,000 or right around $300,000 on loader trucks. If you do the math, the payments are like over $6,000 a month. And that doesn't include the CDL operators, which are at least $4 or $5 grand a month per truck. And then we have another guy that bought a bunch of grapple saws. And these grapple saws are anywhere from $650,000 to $750,000. And if the payments on $650,000 are over $12,000 a month. And if you buy 2 or 3 of these, a lot of them he made a mistake and he bought them on trucks. So if you have a truck with this, you have to have a CDL operator just to drive the truck around. And a lot of times these trucks, they're so big, they crash. I had him do a couple jobs and they just crush the driveways. Wherever they're at, they're so heavy, they crush everything. And then another thing, if they're on a truck, a lot of times you can't even reach it. Even though it has a 150-foot boom, people don't want you on the driveways. And even if you can go on the driveway, you can't reach far enough to reach anything in the backyard. So a lot of times you're limited, even though he has a state-of-the-art piece of equipment, probably shouldn't have bought it on the truck. Now they got ones that are spider lifts. Basically they're spider cranes, and they can go on tracks in the backyard and actually reach like 99% of all the work. So basically what you want to do, if you are in the market for one of these, be real careful. You might want to buy a track machine. That way you can actually get to every job, because if you have the truck, you're not going to be able to get to every job, so you're going to have to buy another one to get in the backyard. So you're gonna have to have 2 machines. So then you're gonna have to have double that. So your payments are gonna be way over 15,000 a month. And in order to make those payments, I figured it out. You're gonna have to work that equipment almost every single day. If you have a rain day, if you have a day that you don't have any work, or you have a cancellation, or something happens, you can't work that day, you're gonna have to take that money out of your pocket. So just think about it. You want that over your head, 12 to 15,000 a month, and that doesn't include your insurance. If you're driving a big truck and a crane truck, you have to pay crane insurance. So crane insurance is very expensive. It's one of the most expensive insurances. And then you have to pay payroll and overhead. Those guys are all going to have CDLs. They're going to be about $4 or $5 grand a month just for payroll for one guy. And a lot of times you need 2 guys because one operator, and then you also need a climber or somebody there that can assist, because you can't do everything by yourself. You're going to need somebody there, and what they're doing now is having 2 people, so that you're paying twice that. So each one of those guys is making 100 to 200 a day. So just for the employees, 5 to 10 grand a month, just to have 2 guys on that truck, plus the payment of the truck, plus the insurance, plus the crane insurance, plus the overhead. So that's a big ball of wax to swallow there. And you have the work. So anyway, a lot of people talk about, just because if you have a tree service, you have some type of business, and you see somebody that comes in you never heard of, or you haven't seen them before, or all of a sudden they're buying all this equipment, they're buying, absurd, just incredibly huge amounts of equipment or expensive equipment. That doesn't always mean that they're going to be in business. Just wait a year or 2, and because a lot of times people have good credit or they can get loans, but they didn't do the math. They didn't run the numbers. So, it might take them a while. It might take them 2 to 3 to 4 years, but a lot of times they'll get behind on their payments. Something will happen, and because everything has to be running perfectly smooth, and they have to be increasing their income to be able to pay everybody and to pay it right. So if they're making all their payments, they have workers' comp, they're paying their people well, and they steadily increase, they might make it. But 9 times out of 10, if it's not perfect, which this world isn't perfect, these jobs aren't perfect, the economy's not perfect, so you either have to have a huge buffer or you have to have a huge loan from an individual investor, because the banks aren't going to stand by and you miss payments. So just be careful when you're buying this big equipment. And if you have somebody in your neighborhood or somebody in your area, one of your competitors buying all this equipment, don't get excited. Just sit back and wait and relax, because in a few years, you're going to see all these changes. And also too, people are buying all this equipment. We're right in the middle of a huge change. A lot of this equipment is going to be depreciating, because you don't realize when you buy this equipment for top dollar, after a few years, when they start losing business and they can't afford their payments, and the bank repos their equipment, you're going to be able to buy this for a song and a dance. Also too, all this equipment right now is still diesel powered, gas powered. Everything is about to change. Even these big pieces of equipment, just like the Tesla Cybertruck, a lot of this equipment in the next few years is not going to use diesel anymore. They're going to start, even the bigger trucks are going to start changing to electric. And basically what it's going to do, it's going to basically delete and obsolete all this equipment. So just be careful what you buy, because in the next few years, everything's going to change. So if you can drive a truck and power it by the sun and have very little maintenance on that truck, and it's going to be the same price or cheaper than these other ones. And also too, these are older trucks that are depreciating. You're not going to want to pay all this money for a truck that's obsolete when you can buy a newer one that's more efficient. So again, be careful in the next few years. Sit back and wait and watch all these people, what happens. They got humongous loans, the economy's bad, they're not going to be make their payments. So all these nice new shiny pieces of equipment and big money, it's not all what it's cracked up to be. Just watch. You mark my words, in the next couple years, you're going to see a lot of this equipment on the auction block, and you're going to get it pennies for the dollar. And when this new equipment comes out, it's going to be cheaper because nobody's going to want the old technology. Everybody's going to want to be pulling this stuff with electric vehicles, not gas and diesel trucks that are going to eat you up in maintenance. Anyway, this is Roger with Roger's Reviews. And remember, run the numbers. Always run the numbers. Don't get excited. Let everybody else get excited. Let everybody else make the mistake of taking those big loans out for this equipment that's going to be obsolete in a few years. So please crush the like button and let me know if you like this, and I'll keep making these videos. Have a great day.